Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple follow-up questions, if I might. First, in reference to our previous conferee, Mr. Coates, are you familiar with the specifics of his situation?
I have not reviewed the specifics of his situation. I assure you I will.
Dr. Clancy, have you any familiarity with the situation?
Not before what I heard this morning. Not before what I heard this morning.
Okay, I would ask if you could also follow up on the situation in private discussions with Mr. Coates that currently VA is requiring him to drive almost 4 hours for some follow-up treatments instead of being able to receive it right close to home. Would you please follow up on that and see if that's indeed the case?
Absolutely.
Okay. Additionally, I'd like to ask a couple questions of Dr. Litch. What specific person at the VA Medical Center level is responsible for ensuring timely care is delivered to veterans?
Ultimately, it's the medical center director, sir, working with his quadrad, the director, the chief of staff, the chief of nursing, and the associate director who often deals with engineering and environment of care.
And then what specific person or position at the VISN is responsible for ensuring timely care?
Ultimately, it's the network director, sir. He or she works with the chief medical officer and with the quality medical officer.
And then at the VA central office level, who is responsible for timely care?
Ultimately, that would go to the office of the Deputy Undersecretary for Operations and Management and to Dr. Petzel.
And out of all the people and positions you've just named, and anywhere from 20 to 40 deaths by delay of veterans, do you know if anybody at all has received any disciplinary action whatsoever?
I believe that Dr. Petzel discussed disciplinary action the last time he was here. I believe we have identified 2 physicians in Memphis, which is another issue where there was discipline. There was discipline in Augusta as well as Columbia, and there was discipline in Atlanta.
Did anybody lose their job?
I can't answer that specifically, sir.
You don't have the information, or is it a refusal to?
No, I don't have the information, sir. If I did, I would share it with you. I guess I would, maybe in response, I understand your concern, I understand the Chairman's concern regarding accountability, and I think that's important, and I think VA has some very prescribed purposes for that. I'm troubled a little bit by whether or not firing somebody is necessarily the answer. I think, as I mentioned earlier, almost 1/3 of our employees are veterans.
Would you be opposed to taking away their bonus?
Pardon?
Would you be opposed to taking away their bonus?
Can I answer? Could I just continue for just a second?
No, I don't have time for that answer.
I think we need to be careful about punishing everybody for what may have occurred at 1 or 2 medical centers. I think, by and large, sir, we have good people who care for veterans, who deliver quality care, and I think in those circumstances, they should be rewarded. I don't think we should punish the system for what may be incidents that occurred at individual medical centers.
Lastly, Dr. Lynch, I'm looking at your handbook that provides procedures for disclosure of adverse events to patients.
Yes, sir.
It's pretty clear of the ethical requirements. Unwavering ethical obligation to disclose to patients harmful adverse events that have been sustained in the course of their VA care. Has this been disclosed to Mr. Coates?
It would appear from his testimony that it hasn't, sir. I think VA has taken a lead in this area. I don't think we're perfect, but I think we have a good system and it can be better.
And if one failed to disclose this, as apparently is the case to Mr. Coates, what is the punishment? And who is punished for a failure to meet an unwavering ethical obligation?
Sir, at this point, I don't know. I need to understand the circumstances that occurred, and I will be looking into that.
And I appreciate the specifics on Mr. Coates, but the general question is, Who is responsible for meeting this unwavering ethical obligation?
The handbook would tell you that it is the executive team of the hospital. It is the director, it is the chief of staff, it is the chief of nursing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Mr. O'Rourke, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Lynch, Mr. Coates made a very powerful case that the delay of service to a veteran can effectively mean denial of life-saving care to that veteran. And I think you have made the commitment to look at his case specifically, find out what you can learn from that, apply those lessons to improving the VA and specifically what happened with those specific doctors. And he relayed an anecdote or anecdotes of poor performance on behalf of a doctor, but he also showed us that there are some truly terrific public servants working for the VA. He mentioned the doctor who retired from private practice and is spending time within the VA because he cares about veterans and wants to make sure that they get the best care. I have found that to be the case in El Paso, that we have really wonderful doctors, terrific care for veterans who can get in. My community and far too often in other parts of the country is that it's very hard to get into the VA and get an appointment and see a doctor. Anecdotally, I've heard from veterans who served as far back as World War II, who need simple procedures like cortisone treatment, who have to, as Mr. Huelskamp just described, travel 4 or 5 hours to the nearest VA hospital in Albuquerque to get that care. They decide not to get the care, and they end up either suffering, choosing an alternative, or just going without. I've spoken to countless veterans who delay or just do not receive appropriate treatment, procedures, or surgeries for these same reasons. That anecdotal information has been borne out by the recent SAIL report that the VA OIG recently produced that showed that El Paso is ranked 123 out of 128 VHA facilities for access to care. When we drilled down into the numbers a little bit further, we found that as recently as 6 months ago, only 18% of veterans seeking to make an appointment were actually able to get an appointment within a reasonable period of time, a standard that you all set for yourselves. So for those 82 other out of every 100 veterans trying to make an appointment, they can't get in and find care. So, you know, Mr. Huelskamp approached this, I think rightfully so, from a perspective of accountability and what do we do when people don't perform, when veterans don't